Welcome back to Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. I'm your host, Kathy Baldwin. And today we're going to talk about something that lives deep in the body, not just the mind. The patterns we inherited, the survival responses we learned, and the ways they quietly shape how we love, parent, and lead. If you've ever caught yourself reacting instead of responding, holding it together while your nervous system screams, or wondering why peace feels like something you have to earn, then this one's for you. My guest today is Emily Cleghorn. She is the founder of Mamahood After Trauma and the bestselling author who helps women rewrite their parenting story after living through trauma. She's living proof that we can break the cycles, regulate our bodies, and mother and live from peace instead of reactivity. So grab a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and let's unlearn the survival programming that's been running your show. Because peace isn't a luxury, it's your birthright.
Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Welcome to another episode of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. Your soul is calling. I'm your host, Kathy Baldwin. And for those of you who are new to our show, let me explain what I mean when I say unlearn the crap. CRAP is an acronym. It stands for Conditioned Responses and Automatic Programming. It is what our thoughts and our feelings turn into in our body. We are biochemical, electromagnetic beings. Everything affects everything. And so our thoughts and our feelings turn into the chemical responses that connect to our gut microbiome that affects our physical health. But it's more than that, because what happens internally is what creates our external results as well. CRAP is also a physical response that must be processed when we have become the queens and kings of suppression, of living with the conditioned responses, of being the good girl, putting on our masks. We are keeping toxicity within ourselves, and that must be released and let go of our body, because it is toxic to us. Today, I am so pleased and honored to be able to introduce you to someone that I not only adore, but I really respect, because she knows what it takes to unlearn that crap and level up. Emily, welcome to the show. Before we get started, I have to ask you, what crap did you need to unlearn so you could level up?
The crap that I had to unlearn was how my survival mode that I was living in was hijacking my parenting journey. Well, if we're being real, my entire life, so that I could parent from a place of peace instead of reactivity.
I love that. I love that. Emily, now that you've unlearned that crap, how are you leveling up and serving the world? Could you tell us who you are?
I am the founder and CEO of Mamahood After Trauma, the host of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast, best-selling author of 2 books, Rising from the Ashes and Breaking Free. And I help trauma surviving mamas to mend the past so they can mama in peace.
I love that. I love that. Okay, let's dive into the deep end. Are you ready?
Oh boy, do you know me?
Well, when we've got trauma written right into your identity of who you are, mamahood after trauma, we know that you have a major story. And while trauma cannot be quantified, pain is pain in the body. Trauma is trauma, whether it's big or little. You, my friend, are beyond a survivor and you've gone through so much. Could you share your starting story for us, please?
Yeah, I would love to. So my life started out in the trenches. We'll just put it that way. I was wanted by some and not by others. And so from a young age, I became familiar with abandonment. At 6 or 7 months old, my biological mom said, I can't take care of her anymore, and dropped me off with my paternal grandparents. From that time on, my grandparents were my constant. And so I lived with them all through until I was 6. And then my dad, who had lived with us prior up until that point, got married, and I was really close with him at that time. So I wanted to go live with my daddy. And my grandmother thought, she's supposed to be with her parents. So she allowed me to go live with my dad. And I lived with him for 18 months with my stepmom and my stepbrother. And during that 18 months, I was abused, not by my dad, by other people in the household, in pretty much all of the ways that you can imagine. And so I was 6, I turned 7 during that time. And as a 7-year-old, I have a 7-year-old now, and I can't imagine her doing what I did. I learned that nobody was coming to save me. Nobody was going to advocate for me. And if I was going to get out of that situation, I was going to do it myself. I had to rely on myself. So on weekends, I wasn't allowed to stay home. So on this particular weekend, I was at my bio mom's house, and she told me to go get my overnight bag packed up because it was Sunday night. It was time to go home so that I could go to school in the morning. And something inside of my 7-year-old body said, nope, not tonight. I'm not going back to that hellhole. So I went in my sister's room, packed my bag, and so this was the mid-90s. Big clunky furniture was the norm back then. And so I was scrawny. I remember people telling me that I looked like a child from a immigration camp, a refugee camp or something like that. Yeah. So you could see my collarbone. You could, like, my eyes had dark circles around them. My stepmom made me cut my hair off in a mushroom cut. And so I fit really nicely into the chair hole of my sister's desk. And so that's where I went into that chair hole and put my overnight bag, stuffed it in the hole so nobody could see me. And I sat there, and I didn't really have a plan much beyond that. I was 7 years old, right? You don't a lot of 7-year-olds don't have to create a survival plan, an escape route. And so I sat there, and my older brother came in looking for me, my sister came in looking for me, my mom came in looking for me, and I was silent. I didn't say a word because I knew if they found me, I was going to have to go home. And if I went home, I wasn't safe. So eventually, my mom did find me, and she goes, "Em, what are you doing?" I'm not going home, Mom. They hurt me. Oh, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't know. Figure it out. So she got on the phone.
That was your mother's response when you said, "I
Yeah.
get hurt"?
Yeah. What am I going to do? Figure it out, Mom. And so she got on the phone. She called my dad. My dad called my grandparents. And that night I went back to live with my grandparents, and life went back to normal. Only I wasn't normal. I had
No.
just lived through hell. And my little nervous system learned survival mode really quick.
Yeah.
Um, I had, like, over the span of that 18 months, I learned hypervigilance. I learned how to control a situation so that I wouldn't get hurt. Um, I learned stalling tactics to stall someone who is threatening to hurt you. And I learned how to be quiet and be invisible. Not something I can imagine my 7-year-old dealing with. And so
Emily, I hate to interrupt your story, but I need to ask. You describe what you look like as a 7-year-old child, very small, very frail. It sounds to me that it was physically written on your face that you were in distress and in your demeanor. How long did you have to deal with this on your own? When did someone come in and recognize that you were a child in trouble?
well, I think based on what I have been told, people knew that something was going on, but they didn't know what exactly. And they spoke to authorities. I mean, my stepmom fought with my elementary school to hold me back in grade 1. There was no reason for me to be, like, academically, there was no reason for me to be held back in grade 1, but she didn't want me to be promoted. So the school knew there was something going on. My grandparents knew there was something going on. My mom likely knew there was something going on, but was too involved in her own crap to really be paying attention. And there were people who spoke to authorities, and they were told that there was nothing they could do, which I do not believe. Being a veteran educator, and what I know about the system, I do not believe for 1 second that there was nothing they could do.
Did anyone ever ask you, "Emily, are you okay?"
Not that I remember.
Wow. So When did you get to the place that you went to the after? Did you have to go through your entire life under this condition of hypervigilance, being constantly stressed? I know that you and we've talked, and for me, I didn't learn until I was in my 50s that living with trauma and complex PTSD and chronic stress and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
I thought what I was living was normal. I didn't
Yeah.
know that everything that was going on in my body and my mind wasn't experienced by the whole world. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't until my 50s when I had a major issue that totally broke everything open that I started to be able to realize you as a child, you would have normalized trauma as
Oh, yeah.
well. When did you figure out that that wasn't normal?
So, I grew up through my teen years believing that my body hated me, that it was working against me because I had health issues, gut issues for, oh gosh, I think I was 6 the first time I had acid reflux, heartburn. Um, and so it wasn't until I think I was I think I was 28 and my husband and I were trying to conceive, and I went to a naturopath who was who explained to me in plain English that I could understand how survival mode, how the constant low level stress that I was living in was causing the infertility and menstrual cycle challenges that I was dealing with.
This
Because
is really important that I want everyone to hear because just like I was talking about in the intro, what we experience in our thoughts and our feelings and that trauma and that stress, it affects every part of our physical body. And the digestion system is one of the first precursors that tell us something is wrong. It is the most delicate system. So I know for me, I had ulcers in my teens, and you had acid reflux. These are symptoms that I really want us to articulate for those who are listening because we're not in the 90s anymore. But we are also in a time and an age where there is more abuse and more traumas that are going on. And the faster that we can catch them and the faster that we are aware of what it looks like and what it feels like, and we can go, because how different would it have felt to you if someone came to you and protected you and said, we see you, we hear
oh
you,
my goodness,
something's going on?
that would have been, well, trauma is the result of what happens inside of you when you deal with a traumatic event alone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not the
So,
event. It's how you process it that is the trauma.
yeah, yeah. So, had I had someone sit down and say, Emily, I can see that you're hurting. I'm here. You're not alone.
I got you.
I got you. That would have changed everything.
Yeah, and back in those times, people were afraid to admit that there was something broken at home because we lived in a society in the 80s and 90s and probably not so much now because There's a lot out in the open, but back then, what happens at home stays at home. We don't talk about it. That front door, chaos lives behind it, but out in the real world, hello, and we would be acting our part. And that's part of what makes us sick.
Yeah. The constant performing.
Yeah. And that constant performing is more than that, because it tells our brain, it tells our body, we can't trust ourselves. We won't protect ourselves, because we are pretending to the world that everything is okay, but inside we're screaming, help me, help me.
Yeah, it causes a huge misalignment. Huge.
Yeah, let's talk about
really
that
going on. What's really going on the inside, what you're scared to talk about, what you're scared to bring to the surface, what's really true. If you're not free to be authentic and you're performing and pretending everything's okay when it's really falling to hell in a handbasket, that it causes a dissonance. And your brain, your nervous system can't make sense of it.
No, and that I think is the important part of our discussion right now, because yes, it is happening to children, but it is happening to grown adults too, who haven't unlearned the crap and don't understand that when they pretend that everything is okay at home. And this is really, really important to me, because of the changes that are happening around the world, politically, socially, and in so many ways. Women and children are losing their voices again. And we are going to come back to another generation of silenced victims if we don't understand the ramifications.
Yeah. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to speak to a group of mamas in person. And in my presentation, I was outlining how overwhelm, how survival mode shows up, what the physical symptoms are, what the emotional symptoms are, how it looks in a sensory format. And do you know, there were so many mamas sitting in that room who were surprised to discover that the feeling that they have felt for so long is actually overwhelm.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Kathy, you know me, I don't do surface level stuff. Then I took it even deeper and helped them to understand the root of their overwhelm.
Okay, will you share some of that information here and now? Because for me, everyone who knows my story knows that I suffered a full breakdown from burnout, from fibromyalgia, from trauma, and all of that. And I am still learning the symptoms in my body. I am still, when a trigger happens, and triggers happen all the time, when we start to understand what it feels like, we can then say, this is part of the healing process. I need to allow this to happen and process and not suppress and not pretend that that's not what's happening. So could you please share some of that information so that we can be cognitively aware when it happens?
Yeah, so overwhelm is what it shows up physically in feel like muscle tightness in your body.
Where? For me, it's right in the heart, the central sternum, and my throat.
For me, it lives in my traps here, and then also in my lower back.
Ah, right
But
along your spinal column.
Yeah. It's different for everybody. It shows up differently for everybody because we're all so unique. It also shows up in your how big or small your window of tolerance is, how much you can stimuli you can handle before you feel like you're going to lose your mind. For me, I'm talking to a lot of mamas, and so I let them know that, overwhelm can look like snapping at your kids. It can look like noise sensitivity, light sensitivity. It can look like escaping to your phone into a scroll hole. It can look a lot of different ways. It can also look like an upset tummy and digestive problems, because if you've ever eaten a meal and it feels like a rock sitting in your stomach, that is because when your body is pumping out cortisol from stress or overwhelm, your digestion slows down.
Yes.
And that can cause poor digestion, and then your body's not collecting all of the vitamins and minerals from your food, and it causes long-term problems.
Absolutely. Let's really hone in on this point. When stress is engaged and we are in our sympathetic nervous system, which is the hyper aware, we are in danger, the tiger is coming to eat us, our body will shut down non-essential functions. So it will shut down digestion, it will shut down our reproductive system, it will shut down all sorts of different things. But most important, that I think everybody needs to understand, is our prefrontal cortex. Our ability to logically think has been disengaged because we are fighting for our lives, even if it is not anything life-threatening. And sometimes those surges of emotions will come over us, and we won't have a healthy outlet to understand that we need to process it. And one of my favorite examples was, Debbie Ford. She wrote Why Good People Do Bad Things. And she gave this example of trying to hold a beach ball underwater. And you can hold it there for a certain amount of time, but the amount of effort that it takes, eventually you're going to let your guard down and that ball is going to pop up. And so many times, that's when us as moms don't behave in the ways that we want to, or in the ways that we're proud of, or we continue cycles that we didn't want to ever do. And now we get into a shame loop.
Oh yeah. That react, guilt, shame, that trigger, react, guilt, shame spiral. I talk about that in my presentation, and I showed the mamas how to transition from that spiral to a different, more, because that spiral breeds disconnection, right? It
Mhm.
breeds more trauma.
Yes.
However,
And it
when we move,
reinforces.
yeah, yeah. But when you have your trigger self-awareness, regulation, connection. When you have your trigger toolkit or your tools to help you regulate, and you've strengthened your self-awareness muscle, then you can build more connection with your kids, with others in your life, because you're not in this trigger, react, guilt, trigger, react, guilt. And it's a slow work. It doesn't happen overnight, but it shifts it creates ripples.
Yeah.
It shifts everything.
So let's go back to that self-awareness. What does that
Yeah.
look like? Because my belief or my experience personally is when I know what it feels like, and
Mm-hmm.
when I know that this is my pattern, this is my dance, this is my trauma, and I understand it when I'm not in a trauma mode, when I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
good, healthy place. Now I can become cognitively aware of it
Mm-hmm.
so that when it happens, the goal is to catch yourself faster
Mm-hmm.
and faster and faster because the triggers are going
As
to come. What changes is
Oh
how
yeah.
we react to it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said before, self-awareness is a muscle. And for me, how I started to strengthen that muscle was through reflection after the fact.
Hmm.
So I would ask myself questions like, that that was a big reaction. I wonder what it was about.
Okay, there's a really important, you're saying dropping gold mine here. So this is something really I want everyone to understand. We understand when the reaction is either highly elevated or highly depressed,
Yeah.
correct? That's when we know that we are out of alignment. Doesn't matter that it's one or the other.
No. No.
Okay.
Cuz both are survival.
Yes.
And so when you ask yourself, when you notice first, hey, that was a big reaction, or that didn't bother me.
Ooh.
I wonder why. What was it about that? And then allowing the answer to come to the surface. Because
Mm.
your nervous system knows, but you have to allow it to come to the surface.
But we weren't
I
taught
know
how to
for,
do that.
oh, yeah, I think I was like 9 years old the first time I told, the only time I I told my grandmother, my dear sweet grandmother, God rest her soul. I went up to her and I said, Nan, I don't want to be alive anymore. Life hurts too much. And in her straight-faced. She looked at me, straight-faced as could be, in the middle of washing a dish or something, paused long enough to look at me and say, "We don't talk that way."
Oh.
Okay. So in that moment, I learned that we don't talk that way. We don't talk about the hard stuff. If I
No.
hadn't learned it before that point, which I probably had, I certainly learned it in that moment. We don't talk that way. And so it took me a really, really, really long time, like decades, to start talking
Yeah.
without shame.
Yeah.
Without shame.
Can I ask the origin of your grandmother? And the reason I ask that is because we've scientifically found out that the egg that produces us was alive in our grandmother's bodies. Now, you're talking about your paternal grandmother, so she would not have had the same DNA. But we are born with generations of
Mm-hmm.
trauma and belief systems that have been passed down. My grandmother, at 7 years old, was sent away for the summer to go work on a farm and take care of the herd of cows. And that was her responsibility because she had to provide income for the family. So when she saw my daughter playing with Barbies at 8 years old, she could not comprehend how anyone could
Mm-hmm.
just play. So it's not that your
Mm.
grandmother was in being
No,
negative, or she wasn't trying to
no.
suppress you. She was trying to help you with the information that she knew that got her through, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so, all right, I mean, my grandmother grew up in extreme poverty, born in the late 40s, in a difficult time. Um, the Second World War was over, but only by a few years. Um, and she was married in her late teens, and her mother died, and she had to take care of her younger siblings
Mm.
after she was married to my grandfather. My grandmother had a tremendous amount of trauma. Tremendous. So did my maternal grandmother. She didn't even know who her biological father was. The trauma is, I can I can sit back and look at my family story and see it dripping with trauma. And that allows me to have compassion
And hopefully
because,
it helps compassion for you, not just your your
yeah,
ancestors,
yeah,
because you you had to be born into this. And some of these
yeah,
cycles, knowing the history and knowing where they come from, instead of beating ourselves up, we go,
mhm,
this is like the fact that I have short, stubby legs that are part of the Baldwin tradition. Oh, I mean, we have no problem identifying the body parts that we got, but when we can identify the traumas and the behaviors that we learned, we
mhm,
can stop them. We can say it
yeah,
ends here with us.
yeah, yeah. It's it's huge, and it was it was really hard for my grandmother when I started healing because she had spent her entire life repressing and pushing it down. And I would say there are probably some cycles that she carried on, not out of malice or she intended to do it. She just
What you
didn't. She
do.
wasn't aware, and she didn't have the
Yeah.
tools. And
Yeah.
but it was hard for her when I started healing because it reminded her, I think, of the hurt and the pain that she spent so many years pushing down.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that is the major lesson that I want us to take away from this conversation is when we deny our history, when we deny our feelings, when we deny our experience, when we don't look at ourselves with compassion and say, I wonder, where did that come from? Why did I feel that way? Why did I react that way? We don't break the cycle, and now we are staying trapped in it. And we cannot continue in those dysfunctional patterns any longer. They are seriously all being called to the surface.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that we are in a time right now where there is an opportunity that our ancestors didn't have to do better,
Yeah.
to work through the garbage and do better.
Yeah.
And it's a gift to our ancestors and those who will come after us, because these ripples they don't end with you. They will be carried on by your children and your children's children and their children, and it will continue through generations. And you get to start it.
Yeah. And that is so powerful. And I believe that that is why you are doing what you're doing. I lost my parents 17 years ago in 2008. And they were young, but they let all of their traumas, their crap that they suppressed, take them into alcohol. And they ended up dying from their addictions. And I was raised in a household that was, we don't talk about what goes on behind closed doors. And when the door opens, we are a happy family. Everything is perfect. And that crazy talk. And do you know, when my mother passed away, she came to me in a dream and she basically gave me permission that I did not need to keep her secrets anymore, that she saw it and she basically, it was a very spiritual moment that said, it's okay, Kathy, I suppressed my voice, but you don't have to suppress yours anymore. Do you, or did you have any type of epiphany or awareness from the previous generations that said, Emily, it's okay, that's our crap, you go take care of yourself, you go take care of the next generation? Or are you the
Well,
change maker?
I don't know. I did have a dream after my grandmother passed last year. And she came to me in my dream and she said, they tricked us. And then she left. And so I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what she's talking about. If she's talking about society or Christianity or what she was talking about. But she said, they tricked us. And I was like, what? What are you
Well,
talking about?
is that not exactly what your message is right now about undoing the trauma and not having to stay silent? And when your grandmother
Maybe.
said, "We don't talk about that," and that was such a monumental moment, and then she comes to you and says, "They tricked us." Of course, we're supposed to talk about it.
I guess. It could be. I mean, there's so much that it could be.
Okay, so I love the way our conversation has gone because we've touched so many things. But right now, you are on a mission to help mothers who are raising children right now.
Yes.
But what you're doing is also going to help those who have already raised children and now they show up as
Absolutely.
differently as grandmothers, or
Mhm.
those who have not had families yet, but they can do their healing work. How
Oh,
do you
man.
help? Yeah, could you imagine?
Oh, man.
Could you imagine if we all came into parenthood as fully healed human beings and with the tools and the skills to know how to self-regulate and to recognize our patterns? I mean, they're still
Oh,
going to
man.
be there, but when we're
Oh, yeah.
stronger. That's what
Yeah.
you're doing
I
right
mean,
now, right?
yeah, because, like, I was in the early days postpartum before I even really knew that I had a lot of crap to deal with. Because, like you said earlier, it was normal. I believed that everybody had some level of the same experience that I had. And turns out, nope. Try again, Em. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. Um, this work is not just for mamas who are raising littles now, it's for grandmas who want to show up differently. It's for mamas to be aspiring mamas who know that they have some stuff that they could work through. And if you are an aspiring mama, a good way to tell if you've got some triggers to work through, if you're not really sure, if you're if you find yourself losing it over a jammed photocopier or a sudden change in your schedule, you've got some things that are calling you to be healed.
Oh, I love that. I love that because we all have these little micro moments where we can
Mhm.
realize that this is something that. So I'm a grandma. I wish we had had this conversation 30, 40 years ago because my children are adults.
Mhm.
And my oldest has two children. And I remember one time that I was talking to my son and I was trying to give him motherly advice. And he said to me, "Mom, we don't do it like that anymore." Now,
Mm.
part of me got my back up, like, what do you mean? I raised you and look how you turned out. And I felt like I was being negated on what I knew. But when I sat back and went, oh my God, yes, they get to do it differently. And I was able to sit back and put my own experience. I now show up differently as my mother, as a mother to my children. I can't
Yeah.
undo the mistakes I made or the patterns and the cycles that I hadn't broken back then, but I get to do
Mhm.
it differently now.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of our relationships. Even after your children are grown, you have the opportunity to do it differently. You don't have to stay stuck in what was back then. You can make a change now.
Yeah. And this is where our power is.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, right in this moment, right in these
Mm-hmm.
conversations. And we can look and say, I did the best I could with what I knew, but that does not excuse me from not learning more now. Because after hearing this conversation or any other conversation, we now can't unknow what you've just shared.
Mm-hmm.
And now it is a choice. Do we face our darkness? Do we face our triggers? Do we face our cycles? Or do we retreat and hide? And you're calling mamas to say, no, it's okay. I got you. Just like you wanted someone to do when you were a little girl, you wanted someone to come and say, it's okay. I got you. You don't have to do this alone. And you're doing that now for mothers. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
What a powerful, powerful mission that is. Okay, Emily, we've talked a lot here. We've probably stirred some pots and hopefully we've inspired a lot of people. You are in the trenches with mamas. Big trauma, little trauma, no trauma. I don't believe that's possible. I don't know why I said it. We all come with some sort of trauma, whether it was
it's a spectrum.
Yeah, it's just the way the human brain is wired.
Yep.
How do people reach you and how do you help them?
So earlier I was talking about building your trigger toolkit, and that could sound really overwhelming if you're like, what is that? So I've created a guide to help you find some emotional regulation techniques if you are just starting out on your journey, or if you are looking for new emotional regulation techniques. It's called the Unlocking Peace Guide, and it's completely free in the show notes of the episode. And inside there, it is a 7-page downloadable. I teach you some of my favorite emotional regulation techniques that don't require you to spend any moolah, completely free, using your breath, using your feet on the ground, noticing where you are, and harnessing the power of your body, which maybe you are on a journey of reconnecting with because you've disassociated, which is completely possible. And so that is available for you on my website. You can find me and connect with me either on the podcast, Mamahood After Trauma. It's available on all major and minor, for that matter, podcasting platforms. You can also connect with me on Instagram, Emily.mamahoodaftertrauma.
Love that. Love that. Emily, thank you so much for your braveness, your vulnerability, for your sharing, for your energy, for your mission, for everything that you are doing, transmuting the pain and trauma that you went through and making a difference in the world. Thank you so much for all you do, and thank you for being a part of the Unlearn the Crap show.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Always. I love talking to you. And for those of you who are listening, I want you to remember Emily's words about self-awareness is the start. Challenge everything. Challenge your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, everything, because your mind is only telling you what it already knows. And we don't know where those thoughts came from until they're challenged. And when you challenge everything, you can achieve anything. I'm Kathy Baldwin, your host of Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling. Until next time, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That simple act helps amplify this important work of unlearning the crap that holds us back. This show is built on the foundation of my 3 books, Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling, a roadmap to release what no longer serves you, How I Unlearned My Crap, which is my raw story of breaking free and the patterns that I needed to unlearn, and the 3rd book, The Unlearned Life, an AI-powered ritual system for truth transformation and personal empower. If you're a podcaster or you want to be, this is for you, because 85% of podcasts fail, not because of the message isn't powerful enough, but because the back end can be overwhelming. I created the Finally Podcast automation system so your voice doesn't become a statistic. Your message is too important to be silenced by burnout, tech chaos, or even wasted time. My mission is to support not only my guests and you, the audience, but also every podcaster who's ready to level up. So until next time, keep unlearning, keep leveling up,